players I love and hate in week 5. Let's get it started. This is my co-host Jeffrey. He helps me out with my animations and whatnot. Jeffrey, say what's up to the people.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
So without further ado, let's get it started. Jeffrey, bring up the quarterbacks, please.
Yes, sir.
Quarterbacks I love in week 5. I love Brock Purdy this week. He goes up against the Arizona Cardinals in the highest over-under of the week, and he has the highest implied total. Vegas expects him to score 28.5 points. Let's go. He's got all his weapons back. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle. The Arizona Cardinals do not scare you on defense. If you got Brock Purdy, fire him up. Next up, Jordan Love. Impressed me last week. I did not think he would have a good game his first game back. Lit up the Minnesota Vikings, who have been great against the quarterback position. Now he gets the Rams. Oh yeah. Now, Christian Watson went down, which is unfortunate, but Dontavian Wicks looks like he's about to step up. It's the 3rd highest over-under of the week. Sign me up. Another quarterback that surprised me last week, Justin Fields. Let's just say I did not expect him to be the number 1 quarterback last week. That'll happen when you run for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus getting it done in the air. Now, the team was down, but I think he can play well against the Dallas Cowboys. This is not the Dallas Cowboys of old. And not by old, I mean 20 years ago when they were winning something. I mean old as in last week, 2 weeks ago, when they had Micah Parsons and Lawrence. They're banged up on the defensive end. Justin Fields might do a little something. Fire him up. Quarterbacks I hate this week. I never thought I'd do this. Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has not been the Patrick Mahomes of late. Patrick Mahomes has not been this elite quarterback that we've grown to know and love. Currently quarterback 16. He hasn't finished in the top 10 since week 12 of last year. Doesn't have Rashee Rice. Isaiah Pacheco's banged up, so we have a throwback with Kareem Hunt. Xavier Worthy is still really getting incorporated into the offense. Travis Kelce's going to be doubled. I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes is going to finish as the quarterback 20, but I don't think he's going to be top 12. But yeah, Mike, it's easy for you to say that. You don't have to bench him. Yes, I do. And I've already done it multiple times this year, actually. This is my dynasty team, the baby GOAT. He's even in the title. I started Baker Mayfield over him, and here he is on my bench. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions in fantasy football. And right now, Patrick isn't getting it done. Could he dominate and make me look stupid? Sure. But it hasn't happened since week 12 of last year. He's not a must-sit, but he's definitely not a must-start anymore. I also hate quarterback 4 on the year, Sam Darnold. He has a terrible matchup going up against the New York Jets in London, across the pond, in one of the lowest over-unders of the week. They're projecting 40 points in this game. That's not good. Sam Darnold is not a must-start this week. Not a must-bench either, but definitely not a must-start. I don't see him finishing in the top 12. So unfortunately, I don't think Sammy Boy gets his revenge against the Jets in spectacular fashion. You may still get the dub, though. Stay tuned for my Pick'em episode. And for the 57% of the people out there that are starting Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't. Bad matchup in London. No thank you. Hard pass. Quarterback sleepers for week 5. Geno Smith. Geno Smith's team is projected to score about 25 points. That's the 4th most in the league. Going up against the Giants, who definitely don't scare you. For those of you who don't know, Geno Smith is quarterback 6 on the year so far. Please stop sleeping on Geno Smith. I keep telling you about him. No one's listening. He's thrown for over 300 yards 2 of the last 3 weeks, and also he's running more than expected. Last week he ran for 38 yards. That's a solid baseline for Geno Smith. Fire him up. Next up is Trevor Lawrence. Yes, I know. Trevor has been brutal so far this year. He's currently 23rd, which is gross, but he goes up against the Indianapolis Colts that allow the 2nd most points to the quarterback position. That's really good. Also, his team is 0-4 in a must-win situation. I think he's going to have to sling it. He's going to have to put the team on his back, though. The team has the 5th most implied points this week, meaning they expect him to score a decent amount of points in this game. I think Trevor comes through. He's kind of got to. He did just get the bag. Can't be going 0-5. Ugh. And lastly, we have Joe Flacco. Anthony Richardson is banged up with a hip pointer, I believe. And Joe Flacco's going to step up, just like last year when he was on the Cleveland Browns, and last week when Richardson went out. Joe Flacco can sling it. And it's really going to help this offense, which makes me think this is going to be a higher scoring game. He also elevates some other players, but I'll get to that in the next segment. I think it's going to be a solid sleeper this week. Also, only start him if Anthony Richardson is out, obviously. Moving on. Wide receivers I love this week. Deebo Samuel. San Francisco 49ers have the highest implied total of the week, meaning Vegas sees a lot of points scored in this game. Deebo Samuel will be a benefactor of that. The Arizona Cardinals don't scare you in any way, shape, or form. I expect Deebo to be involved in the passing and the running game. I know that he had a rough start for you last week, but Deebo Samuel's too good to stay down for long. I'm firing him up against the Cardinals. Next up, Amari Cooper. I know he has burned y'all so far this year, but I think this is a game where he comes through. The Washington Commanders are the worst team against the wide receiver position. I think that Amari Cooper should have had a nice touchdown last week, but didn't work out. I believe it got called back for a penalty. I think you slide him into your roster. Next up, Michael Pittman Jr. I'm so happy to say nice things about you. If Joe Flacco starts, I think Michael Pittman Jr. is going to pop off. Going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the second easiest matchup for wide receivers. Joe Flacco is not afraid to sling it. So I'm much less afraid of Michael Pittman having a gooser. Also, I like the 9 targets he had last week. That's what's up. 113 yards, let's go. If Flacco plays, I also like Josh Downs. He went 8 for 82 and a touchdown last week, let's go. But he's more of a sleeper. Speaking of sleepers I love in week 5. Wan'Dale Robinson. The kid had 14 targets last week and 8 or more targets 3 of the last 4 games. And with Malik Neighbors out, he's going to be the #1 target. He's basically a lineup lock for me. I have him in leagues. He's playing in all of them. 14 targets with Neighbors, fire him up in PPR leagues. Another target hog, Dontavian Wicks. I told you to pick him up. Now I'm telling you to start him. He had 13 targets last week. Now he turned that into 5 for 78 and 2 of them things. Could have been 3, but it got picked off in the end zone. The Green Bay Packers have the 3rd highest implied point total this week from Vegas, meaning Vegas expects them to score. Wicks is going to be a benefactor of that. Christian Watson out. Wicks slides in. Another good sleeper, Juwan Jennings. The kid keeps getting targeted. 6 targets, tied for the most on the team last week. I'm expecting a lot of points in this game. I think you can fire him up. The kid had 88 yards last week. Let's go. And lastly, Keon Coleman. With Khalil Shakir going down and not playing this week, I think that he is one of the benefactors of the increased target load. They play the Houston Texans, meaning they're going to need to score and probably sling it. I think Coleman gets a couple extra targets. He should be a solid sleeper. I'm going to do something a little different this week. Normally I have a player that I hate for wide receiver, running back, but this week's a little different. I hate a whole team. They've just been crushing me this year. Players I hate this week. The entire Miami Dolphins. It's ridiculous what they've put us through. They have not scored more than 12 points in the last 3 weeks. And 3 weeks ago, they had Tua for most of the game. So it's not even just the fact that Tua's gone, even though I think that they'd be a lot better with Tua, obviously. 10 points against the Bills, 3 points against the Seahawks, 12 points against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans suck. This is ridiculous. But let's talk about these players specifically. And we're going to start with Tyreek Hill. He has not finished inside the top 50. I repeat, the top 50 in 3 weeks. That's against the Bills, the Seahawks, and the Titans. He's not playing the 49ers. What are we doing here? Tyreek Hill, until further notice, is a flex with upside. If you can't get it done against the Tennessee Titans, now I know they had Snead on you. So there's that. And the reason Tyreek Hill is still in the flex consideration is because Tyreek Hill can always catch a deep bomb touchdown. That's just a given. He is the fastest person in the NFL. He could always catch a deep one and take it to the house. But right now, he is crushing your fantasy team. He's crushing me, and I have to start him. What am I going to do? Start Yosevich or Braylon Allen? No, he's a flex play, but he's not a must start anymore. Jalen Waddle, the last 2 weeks, wide receiver 68 and wide receiver 59. Jalen Waddle has been abysmal. He is a bench. I am not playing him. I have him in a league, and I got to bench him. Tua really was the glue that held this team together because, my goodness, I did not know how valuable he was and how ill-prepared they were for when he was out. And lastly, De'Von Achane. I think De'Von Achane is a flex with upside. He's not a must-start anymore. You possibly have better players than him at the moment. Oh, this is so depressing. I really like all these players, and I don't feel confident in starting literally any of them. Achane, back-to-back weeks outside the top 30. So here's where we are. Tyreek Hill is no longer a must-start. He's a flex with upside. There's plenty of players out there that are flex-worthy, that could always have a boom game. That's basically where he slots in right now. I think that they're going to try to get him more targets because he was yelling on the sideline, but I'm not confident that he's going to be a top 12, top 15 play. I think he's going to be a flex play with upside. He might get there with volume, he might get there with a deep touchdown, but he's not a must-start anymore. Jalen Waddle is a bench until further notice. If he's lucky, he'll get into the flex spot. They are just an inept offense, and they go up against the New England Patriots, who are notoriously a pretty good defense. I don't think they're elite, but they get the job done, and it's a division rival, so they're used to playing them. De'Von Achane is a flex play with upside. Your hope here is that he increases his workload, gets a bunch of targets. First 2 weeks, he had 7 targets. That's what you're hoping for to stay alive with Achane right now, because my goodness, this offense is just hot garbage. Y'all lost to Mason Rudolph. You should be ashamed of yourself. Mason Rudolph. Running backs I love this week. Kenneth Walker. He came back last week and balled out against an incredible Detroit Lions defense. I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting it. Fool me once, shame on me. Not fooling me again. Going up against the New York Giants, they are going to run the ball down their throats. And he was getting the ball in the receiving game too. 5 targets, 4 receptions for 36 yards. Kenneth Walker was an outright beast last week. I can't believe he finished with 3 touchdowns on the ground. Can you get some of those in the air? I need Geno Smith to have a good week. Thank you. 4th highest implied point total this week for the team. That means Vegas expects a lot of points. Walker's going to be a benefactor of that. He's also facing the Giants. They are the definition of mid. Next up, Chuba Hubbard. The kids had back-to-back games with over 100 yards going up against the Chicago Bears, which is good against the pass game. Not as good against the run game. They allow the 8th most points to the running back position. And as long as Andy Dalton's there, I like their offense better. I think Chuba Hubbard should be a fine start. Back-to-back 100 yards? Oh yeah, you like that. He's also getting involved in the passing game. 3 straight weeks with 4 more receptions? That's pretty good for a running back. Fire him up. Running back sleepers for week 5. Najee Harris. I know Najee Harris has not been great currently, running back 31. But in 3 of the last 4 weeks, he's had 17 or more carries and almost 70 yards. And in the last 2 weeks, he's had 5 or more targets. Now here's the thing. Going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, Cowboys. Cowboys cannot stop the run. They've allowed the 3rd most points to the running back position. Fire up your Najee Harris this week. Also, side note, Jaylen Warren not expected to play, so Najee's going to get even more work. Next up, Jonathan Taylor is currently out. That means Trey Sermon is going to be the starter. I'm not in love with this play, but desperate times calls for desperate measures, and I think Trey Sermon should be the guy. I'm sure he's going to be splitting work as well, but I think that he's the running back you want in this backfield this week. I'm firing him up, literally, in my league. I'm playing him. I told you to get him off the waiver wire. Now I'm telling you to play him, because I am. Next, Justice Hill. He's more useful when you think the Baltimore Ravens won't be dominating a game, because if they're dominating, they're just going to run the ball with Derrick Henry to run out the clock. But Cincinnati Bengals could put up a fight. I think that Justice Hill gets some targets. Probably somewhere around like 5 to 7 targets, 50 yards. If we're lucky, a touchdown. This is a desperate times calls for desperate measures type of play, but it's bye weeks, apocalypse, injuries. Here's 2 more desperate ones for you. I warn you, it only gets more gross from here. So if you have a weak stomach, look away. If Brian Robinson Jr. sits, Jeremy McNichols, a name I just heard last week. But Mr. McNichols should see additional work. He did get 2 touchdowns last week, stealing them from Brian Robinson. But if Brian Robinson sits, I'm firing up McNichols with a shot in the dark. Oh, and just to be clear, he's still the backup to Austin Eckler anyways, but I still think you can play him. I don't think that he'll be the starter, but in a game like this, I think you can play him. This area is more for the deep sleepers. But desperate times this week. Devin Singletary, if he does miss, Tyrone Tracy would be a solid flyer. Not excited about it, but if he misses, desperate times calls for desperate measures. There's bye weeks and people that are out. So get mad at me if you want, but y'all always saying that everybody's taken. Deep sleepers, here you go. I'm just messing with y'all. I love my fans. I really do. I'm starting to get likes and comments and stuff. That's what I'm talking about, y'all. Have I missed anybody so far? Let me know down in the comments. Tight ends I love and a sleeper in week 5. Jake Ferguson, clearly involved in this offense, and with Brandon Cooks going down, it's just going to increase the volume for Jake Ferguson. Going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers won't be an easy task for Dak Prescott. He'll need an easy outlet. And the Steelers have allowed the 6th most points to the tight end position. Fire up your Jake Ferguson. Next up, Dalton Kincaid. I love the high over-unders, tied for the 3rd highest over-under of the week. Texans isn't a great matchup, but with Khalil Shakir going down, I see his targets increasing. And they've been increasing every week so far this year. Fire up your Dalton Kincaid. I also want players in this matchup. This should be a fun one. My sleeper is Tyler Kraft. Told you to pick him up off waivers. Now I'm telling you to start him. He was the tight end 1 last week. Not that I think he's going to repeat that. I love that he's in the 3rd highest over-under of the week, meaning Vegas thinks a lot of points are going to be scored. And with Christian Watson out, Kraft should see more targets. I think he's a solid start. So who did I get right? Who did I get wrong? Let me know down in the comments. I'm really excited about some things I have coming to you. You'll be seeing Professor Einstein soon talking about the grades, seeing where everybody lined up. We're 4 weeks in. It's important to look at the whole and see how everybody is playing. Last year's last year. And yes, it's a good data point, but we're in this season and some things have changed. Some of the grades will stick and some of them are a trend that will be ending soon. That's what we'll be discussing in these grading episodes. We're 4 weeks into the fantasy football season, and it's about time for us to evaluate your teams. Some of you are ecstatic because you're 4-0, and some of you are depressed because you're 0-4. Regardless, this season is nowhere close to over. Just because you're 4-0 doesn't mean you're making the playoffs. And just because you're 0-4 doesn't mean you're missing the playoffs. There's a lot more football to be played. This video over here, I made this last year talking about records in week 4. Whether you're 0-4 or 4-0 or 2-2, this video will help you navigate what you should be doing. Let me know if it helps. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and the notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. Good luck this week, Bay Nation. Peace.